The envelope shimmered like a weapon, gold foil, blood-red wax seal, and a name that wasn't hers. She stared at it, heart pounding. It had arrived that morning by private courier, tucked inside a velvet pouch and handed off with the kind of deference reserved for royalty. But the name embossed on the card was not hers. It was the name of the woman who ruined her life. The Met Gala, the holy grail of exclusivity, the fortress of fame and influence. You didn't ask to go, you were chosen, and here it was, in her hands. A mistake? Maybe. But after everything they did to her, after the scandal, the exile, the silence, they owed her this, even if they didn't know it yet. She traced the edge of the card with her nail. The theme was poetic irony, masquerade of secrets. Of course it was. This wasn't just a costume ball. This was a chessboard. And she had just been given a chance to put herself back in play. They thought she was finished. They buried her under press releases and whispered half-truths, let her reputation rot while they thrived on her ideas, her designs, her trust. She'd been erased from her own story, and tonight she would write herself back in. She didn't hesitate. By noon, she'd chartered a car, booked a suite, and contacted the one designer still loyal to her, the only one who remembered what had happened the night she vanished from fashion's inner circle. Together, they crafted something unholy. A gown made from vengeance, stitched in silence, lined with secrets. Every pleat, every jewel, every calculated inch of fabric was meant to haunt the ones who left her to drown. By dusk, the city skyline burned orange against the Hudson. She sat before the mirror in a quiet suite, curling lashes, painting lips, slipping on the mask. No one would know her, not yet. But they would feel her. And when they did, it would be too late. Because this time she wasn't here to ask for a second chance. She came to take what was stolen and burn the rest. The carpet shimmered like wet rubies under the flash of 10,000 cameras. The staircase to the museum gleamed in lacquered obsidian, flanked by floral sculptures that whispered wealth in every petal. The world's most powerful figures, designers, moguls, starlets draped in human diamonds, dripped down the steps like honey from a silver spoon. And then she stepped out of the black car. For a moment, the crowd hushed, just for a beat. Because no one recognized her, but no one could ignore her. Her dress, a storm of sculpted shadow and glinting wire, clung to her like a secret. The mask, jet black, feathered, slashed with gold, hid her face, but her eyes blazed through it, cold, focused, undeniable. People whispered, phones tilted. One reporter leaned toward another and murmured, "Who is she?" Exactly as planned. She didn't linger. No poses, no twirls, no polite waves. She glided forward like she owned the marble beneath her heels, slipping past the line of confused PR interns and into the museum before her name could be questioned. Inside, the Met had transformed into a cathedral of deception. Crystal chandeliers dripped like icicles from a midnight ceiling. Mirrors reflected 1,000 identities, none of them real. Gowns swept the floor like ghosts. Champagne flowed like secrets. And in the center of it all, like a deity among the damned, stood her. The woman whose name was on the invitation, the woman who destroyed her. Adorned in gold-plated silk, wrapped in a halo of stylists, photographers, and false smiles. She looked untouchable, unbothered, unaware of the storm circling just out of view. But she wasn't the only one here tonight. A cluster of fashion elite mingled beneath a chandelier shaped like a shattered crown. She spotted them easily, editors who ran hit pieces against her, influencers who turned their backs, designers who plagiarized her sketches and passed them off as inspiration. They all laughed, drank, toasted to success they built on the ashes of her career. She floated through them like smoke. Silent, but watching, she caught snatches of conversation, talk of fake sustainability claims, underground deals, names that weren't supposed to be spoken. Even now, they thought they were untouchable. They hadn't changed. They'd only gotten more powerful, more confident in their masks. Which was fine. Because tonight wasn't about public confrontation. Tonight was about building pressure, quietly, calculated. Every step she took, every smile she faked, every breath she held, it was part of the plan. And she wasn't alone. Across the room by the edge of the indoor koi pond installation stood a masked guest dressed in obsidian silk. He watched her like he knew something. Their eyes met, just for a second. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. She felt it in her bones. This night would not end the way anyone expected, and someone wouldn't leave with their legacy intact. The dress wasn't just couture, it was a weapon. Beneath the layers of silk and structured seams, hidden between embroidered feathers and illusion mesh, lay a delicate network of micro-devices, so small they were practically invisible, yet powerful enough to expose an empire. Cameras the size of glitter flakes embedded into the neckline. Audio nodes tucked into the shoulder pleats, a fiber-thin transmitter stitched under the hem, pulsing silently like a heartbeat. Every step she took recorded the truth. Every breath captured betrayal. This wasn't just about humiliation, it was about revelation. Strategically gathered evidence of the fraud, theft, and rot buried beneath fashion's polished facade. She'd spent the last year gathering whispers, piecing together what that they'd all tried to bury. Her downfall wasn't an accident. It had been orchestrated by an elite cabal who profited off her designs, rewrote history in press kits, and laughed behind her back while sipping custom rosé. And tonight, every lie they'd told was being recorded. But even as her plan ticked forward like a beautiful time bomb, something felt off. The man in the obsidian silk. She saw him again, standing beneath a wrought iron arch dripping with vines and diamonds. His mask was unusual, no feathers, no sparkle. Just a stark matte black shell, sharp at the edges like a blade. When their eyes locked, she felt it. Recognition, not just of her face, but of who she really was beneath the disguise. He tilted his head. A challenge? A warning? She looked away and moved deeper into the exhibit hall, heart thudding like thunder in her chest. Around her, curated art installations glowed in moody pinks and blacks. A taxidermy carousel of extinct birds rotated in eerie silence. A hallway of distorted mirrors stretched endlessly in both directions. The entire venue felt like a fever dream, perfect for secrets, perfect for revenge. She made her way to a private alcove draped in velvet curtains, pulled out a compact mirror, and checked the readout reflected inside its metallic surface. Green lights flickered faintly across her bodice. The devices were working. The live feed was uploading silently to a secure satellite drive. When the time came, one command from her phone would broadcast it all. She only needed one more piece, a conversation. She had to catch her, the golden woman herself, saying the wrong thing, a confession, a sneer, something real. Because behind the PR team, the publicist, the Polish, that woman was a serpent. And snakes always showed their fangs eventually. As she exited the alcove, she nearly collided with him, obsidian mask. Too close now. He didn't speak, just leaned in, and in a voice like cut velvet, murmured, "You're not the only one here playing a dangerous game." Then he was gone again, swallowed by the masquerade. Her blood ran cold. She wasn't sure anymore if she was the hunter or the bait. A bell chimed once, sharp and ancient, echoing through the marble halls like a countdown from the gods. Midnight was near, and with it, the host's voice boomed across the room, filtered, theatrical, godlike. "In 10 minutes, we drop our masks. But remember..." A pause. "Not everyone here is who they seem to be." Laughter rolled through the crowd, light and tipsy, but not hers, because those words weren't playful. They were a threat, a direct hit. She clutched her clutch tighter, fingers brushing the slim black device inside. Everything she'd gathered tonight, footage, audio, evidence, was loaded and ready. All she had to do was press send, but not yet. Not until she got what she came for. She needed her voice, her confession, her venom, captured raw. And there she was, Golden Queen, laughing by the champagne tower, draped over a famous director like a snake in couture. Her voice curled through the air, light, practiced, fake. But as the protagonist stepped closer, she caught a fragment. Oh, she was always too sensitive. She couldn't survive in this world. A pause. Sip. Anyway, she was a liability. Better to get ahead of it before she got messy. Click. Audio recorded, heart racing. The protagonist stepped forward, voice calm but slicing. Messy? Is that what you call sabotage? The Golden Queen turned, blinking through her mask, confused, then narrowing. Do I know you? She smiled, cold. Not yet. But then a sharp electric pop echoed through the room. The chandeliers flickered, the music stuttered, and with a deep, almost operatic groan, the lights died. Gasps, screams. Confusion swirled like perfume. A crash of glass, a toppled sculpture. The entire Met fell into velvet black. And then, the projectors activated. From every wall, every display screen, every sculptural surface. Truth, raw, brutal, undeniable. Clips began to play, silent at first, overlaid text, headlines rewritten with real emails, video snippets of backroom deals, audio of stolen sketches, a bloody sketchbook tossed into a fire, a whisper, she'll never speak again. Then came the photo. A body, elegant, limp, surrounded by shattered glass backstage at a fashion week years ago, written off as an accident, a tragedy, but not tonight. Now her voice filled the space. They tried to bury me, but you can't silence what's been recorded. The audience, rich, powerful, untouchable, stared up in stunned silence, their sins exposed, their faces turning ghost white behind designer masks. And across the room, the Golden Queen's hand flew to her mouth. She knew who was behind it. The protagonist stood perfectly still as the room erupted into chaos, security shouting, PR managers fumbling phones, reputations crumbling like ash statues in a storm. Then she ran. Not away, not yet. She moved like a phantom toward the back corridor, her heels slicing through the panic, heart pounding like a war drum. Because it wasn't over. Not until the world saw her leave, and not until the last mask fell. The blackout hadn't just killed the lights, it killed control. The richest people in the world, those who commanded empires with a glance, were now stumbling blindly through candlelight and scandal. Screams mingled with gasps. Security stormed the floor in black suits, shouting into earpieces that no longer worked. Phones were jammed, signal cut. No one could tweet their way out of this. And still the footage played. A different kind of spotlight now lit the space, one that revealed rot behind rhinestones. Her voice, calm and vicious, narrated the truth. For years they profited off silence, but tonight I'm speaking for every name they erased, for every intern exploited, every designer ghosted, every soul crushed beneath their stilettos. Images flickered one by one, a spreadsheet detailing stolen garment designs sold under a luxury label. Confidential emails from the Met Gala committee, rigging invite lists for bribes. Footage of a fashion editor verbally abusing a model until she broke down in tears. A redacted police report tied to an overdose at a private after-party, buried to protect the brand's ambassador. And then the final frame. One email, dated 3 years ago. Subject line: handle her before the runway. Signed by the Golden Queen. There was no ambiguity left. She had orchestrated the protagonist's fall, and worse. Because alongside the email was an attached voice memo never before heard. The protagonist had risked everything to obtain it. If she talks, we all go down. So make sure she doesn't get the chance. I don't care what it takes. The gasp that came from the crowd was collective, raw. The Golden Queen stumbled backward, her mask hanging off one ear, her carefully curled hair frizzing under the weight of panic. Someone snapped a photo, then another, then 100 more, and just like that, the world turned on her. Journalists pulled out backup batteries and began streaming live. Influencers who once idolized her now whispered canceled with glee. The elite knew when to jump ship, and they fled her side like rats from a burning yacht. Still, no one knew who she was, the woman who'd triggered the downfall, and she intended to keep it that way. In the chaos, she slid through the crowd, silent, sure. Her black feathered mask still in place. The projector screen sparked, smoke curling upward like incense at a funeral. And then she saw him again, obsidian mask, watching from a shadowed balcony. He lifted a champagne flute in her direction, mocking, admiring, maybe both. For the first time, she wondered if he had helped her, or used her, or if they were simply two predators in the same bloody ocean. A soft whisper brushed her ear as she passed the koi installation on her way out. Not from anyone nearby, from the tiny earpiece sewn into her glove. "They're on to you. Get out. Now." She didn't wait. She moved toward the emergency exit with the poise of royalty and the precision of a thief. Security scrambled behind her, shouting, but not fast enough. The last thing she heard before slipping into the night was the sound of the crowd chanting, "Take off your mask." "Who is she?" "Show your face." But she didn't, because the point was never to be seen. The point was to be felt. And she had made them feel everything: shame, exposure, collapse. Vengeance never looked so couture. The alley behind the Met smelled like secrets, old stone, cold metal, and the faint sting of luxury perfume clinging to the wind. She moved through it silently, the gown's hem lifted just enough to dodge puddles, her heels clicking a final, deliberate rhythm. Somewhere behind her, chaos still reigned. Inside the museum, reputations were collapsing in real time. Media vans had begun to swarm the front, hungry for blood. But she was gone. A ghost in custom couture. She slipped into the waiting car, matte black, no plates, windows tinted darker than night. The driver didn't speak, didn't ask. He didn't need to. He pulled away from the curb as if she were royalty being smuggled out of a palace coup. The city blurred past in flashes, neon signs, camera flashes, the looming glow of Times Square. But none of it mattered now. She opened her clutch and stared at the tiny transmitter, still warm, still blinking. She had done it. She hadn't just taken back her voice. She'd set fire to their lies and let the world watch them burn. The fashion world would spend months trying to recover, brands distancing, apologies crafted, fallouts brewing. And the Golden Queen? She would never recover. Her face was already plastered across screens. Headlines screamed betrayal. Met Gala turns into Met Meltdown. Designer accused of career sabotage. Anonymous whistleblower exposes fashion's rotten core. No one knew who started it, but they all knew what she had done. She touched the edge of her mask, still on, still untouchable. Her phone buzzed. One message. No name, just a line of text. The mask slipped, but the crown stayed. She smiled, not sweetly, but dangerously. It wasn't about fame, not anymore. It was about power, the kind of power they never let her have. The kind built in shadows, enforced with silence, and carried out in silk and smoke. She rolled down the window slightly. Cool wind rushed in, tugging at the feathers of her mask. She watched the lights dance across the skyline like dying stars. Below, the world spun madly on, oblivious. The game had changed. The rules were hers now. She leaned back into the seat, closed her eyes, and whispered to no one, "They'll never see me coming again." And with that, the car disappeared into the night.